right, YouTube, it is Mr. Mean coming at you this Saturday evening, June 13th, 2020. Let's get a little housekeeping out of the way. Let's remember to like and subscribe. Let's grow the Meanie Army, and let's keep it going. We are over 700 subscribers, so thank you guys so much. Every click counts, as the old saying goes. But I wanted to give a shout out to some of our new subscribers. So let's see. So we had 3 new subscribers since last time. Dungeon 90, thank you so much for subscribing. Shannon Bingham, thank you. And last but not least, Oliver Lythe. So thank you guys very much for subscribing. It means a lot. Stay tuned. I usually try to post videos once or twice a week, and we go over various tabletop gaming stuff. I'm on ZellyPay. It's baked into your phones on your mobile apps. It doesn't cost you a dime. Any money that's donated goes right back into the channel. I'm on MeWe, social media. You can. There's a link on the doobly-doo on my YouTube page, and there's also a PayPal Pay Me link if you'd rather donate if you're overseas and you don't have ZellyPay. So anything that you donate helps a lot, goes back into the channel. Appreciate it very much. I will apologize. I'm suffering from allergies, so all right. Sorry about that. Suffering from allergies, like I said. So we went over PayPal Pay Me, ZellyPay, MeWe. Discord, there's a link on my YouTube page, a permanent link for Discord. Join me in there. We talk about RPGs. And let's see what else. Oh, recently I was sponsored. I was made an affiliate of DriveThruRPG. So you'll notice there's a link down there at the bottom of the screen. You can, unfortunately, you can't cut and paste it, but it'll also be in the notes down in the doobly-doo. And what you can do is if you click on that link and then you browse DriveThruRPG, I get a little kickback off of anything you buy. So if you, obviously this video is going to be about Rangers of the Shadow Deep, so if you like that, use that affiliate link there and then go buy yourself a PDF copy or a physical copy of the book, and I get a small kickback and it doesn't cost you anything extra. So with that out of the way, let's jump in today's video du jour. As you can see on the screen, it's Rangers of Shadow Deep. I did get the, I don't want to say collector's edition, but the Uber edition. And man, I got to tell you, I've had some books in my life, but this, oh, I wish you guys could feel this. I wish we had feel-o-vision. It's obviously an embossed leatherette, but it's so weird to describe how it feels. It's kind of spongy, but it feels really nice. The book isn't super heavy. The spine is embossed. Hopefully you can make that out there. And it's basically the same copy as what's up on the screen here. That's just the PDF version of the game. I wanted to be able to kind of show it without having to, hold this up to the camera and stuff. It's awkward. So beautifully done book. The paper is, it's a nice thick, like parchment style paper. It's hard to describe. I'm not a book enthusiast, although I should be. I should know more about books since I love them so much. But it's a very good paper. Everything's black and white. It's the same artist throughout the book. Let me see, let me get his name. It was obviously written by Joseph A. McCullough, which is the brainchild behind Frostgrave, which you guys know I love Frostgrave a lot. It's illustrations by Barrett Stanley. It's all black and white pencil drawing, charcoal drawing it looks like, but it really sets the mood. This is published by Modifius, so you can also go to Modifius's website if you're in Europe and it's, DriveThruRPG isn't your thing. You can use Modifius's website as well. The ISBN is 978-1-9-12743-55-1. Some people I believe it or not, I get a crazy number of people asking for the ISBN of the book. I guess they want to make sure it's the same one that I'm reviewing. There may be multiple copies. There is different versions of this book. This one comes with a couple extra adventures. This is the deluxe edition. That was the word I was looking for before. We are looking at 129 pages of goodness. It comes with a bunch of extra scenarios, the Burning Light campaign. And I'm pretty sure this version does not have that. I don't know. I might have. Yeah, 196 pages. So let's see. 100. Yeah. So this one is more Burning Light Notes. Maybe there's a typo, but I mean it looks the same. The forward. Some of the fiction in here is amazing, but let's get through the standard review first, and before we get into the guts of this. What is this? This is one of those games that I talk about often on my channel, which is a bridge between miniature games and role-playing games. And what's cool is during this COVID time, and I don't know about where you live, but here the numbers are starting to go back up again. They've opened up everything, or opened up a lot of stuff. Restaurants are like 20 to 30% capacity, but we're seeing the cases rise again. So we're probably going to go back into another lockdown. I wouldn't be surprised, let me put it that way. But this is one of those great, excellent games that is solo and or cooperative. So if you've got one or two of your gaming buddies that's never done a miniatures game, this is a great gateway into that, especially if they enjoy painting figures, which most people who paint miniatures also do some sort of tabletop wargaming in some form or another. So Frostgrave or Rangers of Shadow Deep is an excellent, excellent way to get into that hobby if they haven't already. And these are miniature agnostic, although North Star Miniatures does make a line of miniatures for the game, and they are excellent metal miniatures. They have a number of plastic kits. They have male soldiers, female soldiers, wizards. I think they're coming out with a female wizard. It may already be out. There's a box of gnolls. That one's getting really hard to find, but if you find it, pick it up. It's totally worth it. And these are all multi-part plastic kits. It's usually a torso and legs, and then you glue on the arms and the head and any other little accessories you want. The miniatures are fantastic. I don't have any out right now, but what I want to point out is in the game, it's miniature agnostic, meaning you can use your Warhammer Fantasy miniatures, you can use your D&D pre-plastic miniatures. If you're a goober like me and you sunk all that money into Descent, Journeys into Darkness, and you've got a ton of these guys floating around, these work as well. You can paint them, you don't have to paint them, but I don't have anybody to play Descent with. And the solo play rules are fine for Descent, but it just doesn't do it for me. It's a lot of work with a little bit of not a lot of effort. So yeah, it's pretty good. If you hear my kid giggling in the background, I apologize. My wife is playing with him. So happy kid, happy life. So here's one of the D&D pre-painted miniatures. This is an Udiag. It's basically a garbage eater, but it's a pre-painted. You can kind of see the glare there. You might be able to see the number and everything, but this is a pre-painted plastic miniature. This is tabletop quality. It's fine. So you don't have to be a miniature painter to get into games like this. Frostgrave, Ghost Archipelago, or Rangers of the Shadow Deep, or Scrappers, or any of those games. You can get into those. Yeah, my kid's just giggling back there. So I apologize for that, but hey, it's a happy kid. What can you do? So great gateway game to get in. Flat plastic miniatures works really well. Whatever your group has laying around, print and cut out miniature, flat miniatures, you could use those. I mean, the sky's the limit. You can use different colored dice if you just want to get the game to the table and you want to play. But as far as the physical quality book, I've kind of already went over it. It's hardback. It's stitched, sewn, and glued in there. It smells good too. I don't know what it is about it, but like I said, I don't know what this cover is. It's like a fake leather cover. You can see it's kind of embossed and textured, but it's kind of spongy. It's so weird. It's pretty cool. But the interior of the book, let's get into this. So we've talked about it. So this is not a role-playing game per se, but your ranger and your companions do level up. They do gain experience for every adventure you go on. There's narrative adventures in here with a little piece of fiction, and it gives you everything you need to play. You don't have to use the exact same terrain they do. In fact, when you look at a map, and we'll try to pull one up here. So I can iterate this and show you. Here's a bunch of monsters and stuff. And these are the ranger sheets and your companion sheets. So you almost have like a character sheet. Let's see, Burning Light. So this is one of the adventures. So starting for rangers of level 5 to 50. Now when you create your very first ranger, it'll be obviously level 1. An introduction in the maps and everything. The art is, I think, really well done. It very fits the theme. See, they tell you, here's the first scenario. First 8 scenarios should feature event decks. That's another thing we'll get into in a second. But here's the miniatures you're going to need. You're going to need 4 blood bats, so any generic bat miniature you can get. 1 conjurer, so basically some sort of magic user. 1 dark root, I don't know what that is. We'd have to look in there. And dark root vines. So a dark root's probably like a treant or something like that. And then the vines. So you could scratch build those yourself. You could go to, believe it or not, the pet store has a great array of fish tank terrain that you can turn into terrain for miniatures games that are, and it works pretty well with most 28 to 32 millimeter stuff. So here's a list of all the creatures you're going to need for this campaign. Let's get to one of the scenarios though, so they show you a layout. Let's see. So here we go. So this one takes place in a building. So this is going to be a small map, and it doesn't say. So there, all you need is any of your D&D terrain, your dry erase mats, anything like that is going to work for this. Your pre-done Dungeons and Dragons tiles, those will work. Dry erase marker tiles, those will work. Here's the Gatehouse. So this is just a generic. I'm trying to find one that. Yeah, here we go. So here's the Ruined Chapel. So there's basically a bunch of ghouls around here, broken walls. So again, you can use whatever terrain you have, or you can use dry erase markers to mark out the walls and the setup. It tells you what to do. It's played on a 2x5 by 2.5 table, representing the inside of the tower. I get a little sip of tea there. My allergies are just killing me, guys. And there you go. The corner of the right corner consists a small room about 4 inches by 4 inches with a single door. In the center of the room is a large pile of rubble about 4 inches in diameter. So it goes on to so you've got everything you need here, and this is pretty much stuff that you can just whip up. Dry erase markers will work. I've seen people use like poster tack to draw out like a thin line, for a smaller room or stuff like that. So the other ingenious thing about this is you build your ranger. So let's go back to the beginning. You build your ranger. There's a good piece of introduction and some fiction. Tells you about the Kingdom of Alador and the what's happening, what you need to play. Miniatures, obviously, and we went over that. You can use everything from paper miniatures to flat plastic miniatures to pre-painted D&D miniatures or Pathfinder miniatures to paint your own. If you've got a 3D printer, then the sky's the limit. I know a lot of people do that. Dice. This game uses a D20. That's the only die you need. You may want to have 2 though, because sometimes you have to roll for the monster. So you want 1 die for your ranger, your favorite D20, and then the other D20 for the monsters, and obviously make it a different color. Some tokens of some kind, glass beads, pennies, tokens from other board games you may have to represent wounds and status effects and things like that. It will pretty much tell you what it is, and none of it is uber complicated. You can even take, I've seen people take Post-it notes and cut them into little squares and write, ST on it for stunned, and things like that. Or you could even use, if you're playing on a dry erase board, you can write down the damage on the board for that monster, and then as you move it, you just follow the damage with you. So there's many ways to go with it. You have the ranger sheet, the table, and terrain. So you create a ranger. You get build points. You get 10 build points to build your ranger, and with that, there's a numerous amount of options. So no 2 rangers are going to be exactly the same. And what's nice is this game is fully cooperative. So if you've got another friend, buddy, mate, pal, brother, sister, they can play with you, and you guys can sit down and make your ranger together, and no 2 will be the same, which is pretty good. And there's many options for that. There's not a whole lot of stats. Move, fight, shoot, armor, will, and health. That's your stats. It's pretty cut and dry. Your fight attribute is your attack and defense. So if someone is shooting you with a bow, they're going to use their shoot skill versus your fight. Whatever your bonus is to fight could be a +0 all the way up to +5. Or I think the highest it can go is maybe 6 or 7. I'm not sure. But anyway, whatever your bonus is, you each roll a d20, and whoever rolls the highest, adding if the person shooting you with a bow would obviously add his shoot, you would add your fight. That's your defense. If they roll higher, then you get hit, and it's very cut and dry. So if they roll higher, the ranger's armor is, let's just say it's 12. They rolled a 19. Okay, your number at this point doesn't matter. If they've beat you, if their shoot beats your fight, they win. Your fight is out of the equation. Now you take their number of shoot. Let's say an argument it was 19 and your armor is 12. The difference from that is 7. Your ranger takes 7 points of damage. When you're out of health, or 7 points of health. When you're 0 health, you're dead. Well, you don't necessarily die. It's like Frostgrave. You go inactive or you're knocked out. And then at the end of the scenario, because you have henchmen or companions, they call them companions, your companions may be able to continue on the scenario. It just depends on what the scenario states. Every scenario is different. And there are websites you can go to and find a ton of different scenarios. But Joseph McCullough has put out a number of PDFs where you can get on Drive-Thru RPG. For one, I think you can get some of them off of North Star as well. And there's even some on the web for free. If you just do a search, you'll find a couple people have done them for themselves. So it's really well done. And so that's basically the mechanics. Magic works pretty much the same way. We've already talked about shooting, and fighting works the same way. There's the inside of the book, just to give you an actual look. There is some color, not much. So we're going to put the book down so I don't keep futzing with it. I'm going to drop it and ding it up, and that's going to drive me nuts. So, excuse me, that's your ranger. There's your stat line. Split stats. They go on. I want you to pick this up and buy it and read it. It's a good read. Some of the fiction in there is nice. The entry fiction into each little scenario is really well done as well. And you have all these. You have heroic abilities, so you can spend X amount of points to get some of these abilities. Most of these can only be used once per battle, so you want to choose carefully, what kind of ranger you're going to be. Just because you're a ranger doesn't mean you have to use a bow. You could be a sword and board, you could be a two-handed weapon, and they have all these different abilities that will help you with that. So, really cool stuff. Magic bolts, so you can be a ranger that uses magic. Magic is not so much like the heavy duty magic like in D&D. It's more like minor little cantrips that just help in the battle, and it's usually a one use. I mean, you have it, and it carries from campaign or scenario to scenario. But you can only use it once per scenario unless it states otherwise. And then there's skills. And so you get, I think it's 8 skills, and you get to put points in them. And those skills will dictate what you can and can't do in the game. And there will be certain adventures or requirements that'll tell you to, roll a perception check. And you might, if you have the perception skill, boom, you add whatever that bonus is to it. And, you're looking for whatever target number the scenario tells you. Now that's all. And then your companions can have some abilities as well. You have recruitment points, and that tells you what you can and can't recruit. You also have 5 equipment slots as a ranger, so you can take 5 pieces of equipment. But if you take a shield, you can't take a bow or a two-handed weapon because it's assumed you're carrying your shield. So you have to be careful of that. So if you want to go sword and board, you're giving up the bow, because it doesn't assume that these adventures are so fast and furious you're not going to have time to put your shield away and draw out a bow. So it's one or the other. So you have to decide. You can also get magic equipment. There is an armory, and you can actually start the game with minor magical weapons and stuff. Through the course of some of these adventures, you will find magical weapons and magical implements and things like that. So armor, amulets, things like potions, and all that fun stuff. So there's all kinds of stuff. It's fully fleshed out. You can build. You want to be a two-handed weapon guy. You want to use throwing knives. You can get throwing knives. all that cool stuff. So then it tells up the basic rules, how to set up the table. Each scenario will tell you where to place terrain and where the monsters are going to be. And then there's the ranger phase, the creature phase. So your ranger goes first. If there's models within 3 inches of him, up to 2 models, 2 companions within 3 inches of him, he can group activate with those guys, and then they all do their stuff, and then it would move on. So that's always good when you're starting the adventure. You kind of give your orders and make your guys go out. So there's a little tactical sense to it, but it's not like playing Warhammer or playing Infinity where it's very tactical. This is more on the line of fun, and you know what your mission is to begin with. You know what you're trying to do to start when you start the scenario. So it's a lot of fun in that aspect. And then it goes into the creature phase. So if there's any monsters on the board, any creatures on the board that aren't controlled by you or the other player, if you're playing a co-op game, then those creatures get to do, and they have an AI mechanic in here on what they do and how they do it. It's very simple. It's basically if they can see one of your guys, they're going to go towards that guy. They're going to do what they can to eat them. The companion phase is all the rest of your guys that aren't your ranger, if there's any left. The game scales cooperatively, so if you're doing 2 players, you don't have as many companions. You'll have less companions because there's 2 rangers on the board, and that the rangers are pretty powerful. So it scales down based on the players you have. The event phase, this is the really cool part. So a standard deck of playing cards is all you need, aside from the basic stuff we've listed. Each adventure or scenario will tell you how to build an event deck. It's not complicated. It'll say take these cards, like the 2 of spades to the 10 of spades, and you'll take those cards out of your deck, and then you'll shuffle them up. And then at the end of every phase is the event phase. You'll draw the top card, and you'll look at it, and within that adventure, it will tell you what that card. So you draw the 7 of spades. You'll look on the little chart, and it'll tell you 7 of spades says spawn 3 more zombies, and it'll tell you how far they spawn and where they spawn and so on and so forth. So very cool. And so it adds that random element to the game, so you don't know, everything's not super predictable, which can be a lot of fun, especially if you don't read that part of, if you just draw the cards, it tells you to call and you set them aside, it'll be a little bit random in that fact that it'll be a surprise factor because you won't know what that card actually does. And it talks about activation, group activation, movement. Your standard, almost, like D&D or Pathfinder or anything like that. You have 2 actions, and one of your first action always has to be movement, unless you're a crossbowman or a bowman, or you have a ranged weapon. You can forego your movement to reload your weapon. And then it just goes into the basic rules of that. It's not anything terribly complicated. Tells you what your armor does and everything. Swimming modifiers. The art is pretty awesome, I think. So multiple combatants and how that works, and the bonuses and negatives you get. Shooting, again, more cool art. Shooting modifiers, every intervening piece of terrain is a +1, because it's making it harder for you to hit. So damage, how damage works. Poison, disease, because there are things, hunger and thirst, because some scenarios will have where you have to go through like a desert, and then you'll have to make rolls and then go from there. So it's really good. A little short piece of fiction, using heroic abilities and spells. So it just goes on and on, guys, and it's really well done. And it's just pretty, it's just really done. Ending the scenario, target points and companions, number of players. 1 is your build, recruitment points, basic recruitment points, I believe. Maximum number of companions is 7. So if you're playing by yourself, you're playing solo, you can have your ranger and 7 more guys. So you can have a war band basically of 8 guys, which is a huge amount of modeling opportunities. You can go nuts. But then, of course, you see as you add 2 players, your maximum companions are 3. So you still could make that, war band of 7 guys, and then you can choose, okay, I want these 3 guys. because you know what your companion's going to be taking. So maybe he's taking a bunch of ranged guys. You can take fighter guys, or up close melee guys. So there's a lot of cooperativeness in this game that's baked into it, and I really like that. This is all about communicating and having fun, but it plays really well solo. I have not got to play it solo, but I've watched a number of solo games, and they all appear to be fun. So that's that's off the cover. It's a very cool piece of art. Your companion list, and it just lists what they can and can't do, their basic stuff, their notes, and their abilities, so you know what they are. You add that to your blank companion list, and you've got your warband. So this is, like I said, and then you go into, oh, that's a great picture right there. I like it. Take a couple of hits there. Permanent injury, after the scenario, you do the end of game turn sequence and what all happens. What loot did you find? You roll on some loot tables, kind of like Frostgrave. Then you figure out if you've been injured or you're dead. Your ranger can die. I think if you roll a 1 or a 2, some scenarios may alter that a little bit. It just depends on what the scenario is. I'm not quite sure. But I know the basic rule is a 1 or a 2, your ranger's dead. And then you have to buy a new ranger. So then you would have to start all. You wouldn't have to start all over. You can keep your warband, and you just have to rebuild your ranger. So I guess you would have to rebuild your warband as well. Permanent injuries are a thing, and it talks in it just like in Frostgrave. I love it. Lost toes. You can lose some toes. So everything, experience and levels, how you go up, ranger experience, ranger levels. So rangers, new levels, every 100 points, you're going to go up a level. And then, of course, when you hit level 6, it's going to take 150 experience points. The experience, from what I've seen, comes pretty decent. You can get to level 5 pretty quick, because you're going to get, if you finish the scenario, you're going to get a bunch of experience. If you don't finish it, you're going to get a lot less experience. But every time you kill a monster or a creature, or you achieve some minor goal that's in that adventure, you'll get X amount of experience points. So it's really well done. And then it tells you how you level, at levels 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, so on. You can improve a skill. At levels 2, 6, 10, 14, you improve stats. 3, 7, 11, you gain recruitment points. And then at 4, 8, 12, so every level you're going to get something down the list. So really, it tells you how to improve. And there are maximums. Rangers increases a skill by a total of +5. The maximum you may spend on any one skill is +2. So a ranger could increase 5 skills by +1, and it goes in there and tells you. Companion progression, your companions level up as well, which is uber cool. And then it talks about treasure and what you got to do there and what you get when you make the random rolls. So there's a lot to do after the scenario. It's not like, okay, we beat the scenario, we're done. No. Now there's all this after action report kind of stuff you have to do. You're going to level up your guys. You're going to figure out what kind of treasure you got. You're going to maybe hire some new henchmen, because you can have multiple. You don't have, so say you're playing solo, you have 7 henchmen. You could hire an 8th. You can only bring 7 with you though. So you can play with it, and hey, I really need a bowman or a crossbowman. You could hire one and say, okay, I think this scenario, I kind of know what I'm going into. I'm going to need a ranged guy, and boom, you can do it. So there's herbs and potions, all kinds of cool stuff. It tells you what each one of them does. It's just really fleshed out. It tells you all about the armor, magic armor, everything you can get. It's very, very fleshed out for just a simple little game. It's not terribly expensive. So, I don't know. Have you guys tried any of these type of games? Have you played Frostgrave? I love Frostgrave. I got to play last weekend with my good buddy D-Train. And I kind of came out on the losing end, but yet I still did well. We each managed to get 3 treasures off the table, and we gained some experience, and we did some cool stuff. So it was a lot of fun. And these games, you can play them solo or you can play them cooperatively. Frostgrave is not necessarily cooperative, but it kind of can be. Frostgrave is kind of weird because you're trying to get treasure off the table, but sometimes you have to cooperate because the monsters are going to jack you up. And it's like like in the scenario we played, there was an evil genie, and the genie was just wrecking house. And so we had to help each other to survive the scenario to get all the treasure off the table. So it worked out. So these games can be a lot of fun. If you like to model or if you're new to the hobby, this is a great way to get into it because it's relatively easy. It's a simple game. I mean, pretty much, like I said, you can get away with just paper and a dry erase board, and you can play with some paper miniatures to get started, and then you can see, man, do I like this or don't I like this? And then maybe purchase the hard copy book and then start buying some miniatures, or if you play Descent or Dark Souls or any of those board games that have cool miniatures in them, the D&D Shards of or Shardalon or whatever it is, or Avalon. I don't know. I don't do the D&D board games, but I know Drizzt's one of them. They all have those miniatures in there. You could use those, So, and it's miniature agnostic, and it doesn't say human, it doesn't say elf, it doesn't say dwarf. So you can be whatever race you want. If you got a whole bunch of orc miniatures that you really like, you can use those miniatures. You can use your Warhammer Fantasy, orcs if that's your thing. So, and you can build your own narrative and tell little stories and everything. And it's just uber open to customization and doing what you want to do. And you can, of course, model the miniature any way you want. There's numerous, 3D printing sites out there that will allow you to build a model exactly to your specifications. So, I mean, the sky's the limit, and your wallet is the limit on what you want to do. I plan on using a lot of the D&D pre-painted miniatures and my flat plastic miniatures because those will really work. Like I need 8 spiders for the first scenario. I don't know if I have 8 spider miniatures, so I may have to use like some dice or whatever. But I know I have a bunch of D&D pre-plastic miniatures, and I know I have Warhammer Quest, which has a bunch of spider miniatures in it, so those would work too. So you have a lot of things you can use, and you can take from other board games and or miniature games that you might have laying around, or your brother or your sister might have laying around, or your friend. So definitely, I guess the big point here is it's cooperative, it's solo cooperative, and it's just a lot of fun. So Babylon for a good 30 minutes. I hope that gives you a taste of Rangers of Shadow Deep and what it's all about and where it's coming from and what it allows you to do. There's a great story in there. I recommend you buy it and read it, and about the encroaching darkness and everything that's coming, the bad stuff that's coming. There's a little bit of fiction about the world. They don't give you a whole lot. It's kind of left up to you, but they give you enough to understand what's going on, and it's bad, and they need the Rangers, so they need you to go out there and save the world, and that's what the Rangers are for. So I hope that answers any. If you have any questions, leave them down in the doobly-doo, and check this game out. It is a buy in Mr. Mean's book. I think it's a really great game. David McCullough has knocked it out of the park. He learned a lot from Frostgrave, and it transferred into this. And it's still being well supported. There's lots of stuff on Drive-Thru RPG for it. And he is Jason, is it Joseph? Jason? I can't remember his name. Joseph. Joseph is coming out with Frostgrave's second edition, which is going to, some of the stuff he learned from Rangers of the Shadow Deep and Frostgrave first edition are going to be incorporated into Frostgrave second edition. So this is a great time to get in on the ground floor. I think Frostgrave 2 is going to be out later this year, like end of summer, July, August, maybe even sooner or a little bit later. I'm not sure. But obviously COVID has made printing and everything coming from China take extra long time. So bear with them. But if you're thinking about getting into it, you could pre-order that Frostgrave, or you can jump on Drive-Thru RPG and pick them up. Use my affiliate link. Ching ching, help me out. Other than that, guys, peace and hair grease. Hope you enjoyed your time. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends, and check out Frostgrave and or Rangers of the Shadow Deep. And as always, wash your hands, be nice to each other, and be nice.